iHeartRadio Broadway, driven by Mercedes-Benz. The best or nothing.
You know, I love it when our guests sing along and bop along to their own songs.
Absolutely. So much fun. We're bopping along, too.
That's right. That's a song from Be More Chill, the hit Broadway musical at the Lyceum. It was written by Joe Iconis, and he's the one who's bopping along to his own song.
I'm a huge fan of it.
I see you enjoy. You're a huge fan of yourself.
Yeah.
Should hope so.
Welcome to Inside Broadway. And also here is Will Roland, one of the stars, I should say, of Be More Chill. Congratulations on the success of the show, guys.
Thanks.
So nice to see you guys.
Will, I didn't hear you there. Is your microphone on?
Is my microphone on? Oh, there I am.
Yeah, there you go.
In the
Thanks
house.
for having us.
There you go.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
So I got to ask you, I'm watching the Tony Awards, and I thought, well, they should have a scene from the show on the Tony Awards, right? Because, you know, they used to be the old world. You had to be nominated for Best Musical to get on,
Sure.
but now they want everybody on because it's a celebration of Broadway.
Yeah.
Of course.
So I'm waiting. Where's the Be More Chill? Because, you know, it's got a lot of songs that people love.
Sure, yeah.
And then they have James Corden sitting in the bathroom.
Well,
And they do, you know, James in the Bathroom, which, of course, is a total parody of your song.
Yep.
Nobody bothered to set it up and say, this is a parody of Be More Chill at the Lyceum Theater. And apparently they didn't even tell you guys that they were going to do it.
oh, you didn't know in advance?
No, they cut to you, Joe, sitting there.
No.
And he was like, what the heck is going on up
Yeah.
here?
That's my song.
No, truly, yeah. I mean, if you both thought you were surprised, imagine my surprise sitting in Radio City Music Hall.
wow.
Thinking, wow, this is really happening. Yeah, it was a very, very surreal moment, for sure.
But then Corden tried to make up for it by tweeting it out and that sort of thing.
Well, and said that it's his favorite original song of the year of the Broadway season.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Which is so kind. Yeah, you know, it's one of those weird things where, as a writer, I'm of course, you know, excited that I wrote a song that is known enough to be able to be parodied. You know,
Right.
I immediately I was like, I feel like my melody is strong enough where you can put some other lyrics with it and people still know what it is. But the bigger thing is, like, you know, our show is a little show. You know, we need all the help we can get. We need all the exposure and the excitement and all of that. And I just kept thinking, oh man, there's so many people watching this who don't know our show, who just wouldn't know that this is a parody.
Right,
You know, it's people who think, oh, this is a song they wrote for the Tony Awards.
No, absolutely. I thought it was a case of the Tonys just being too insular. They assumed everyone at Radio City knows what it's about. But you got 5 million people out there watching who this is the first time they've ever heard of most of these musicals. And the whole point of it is to celebrate Broadway and advertise the wares on Broadway.
Well,
If I
a
were
lot
you,
of
I'd
this-
sue them.
I'm not
people
going to
have-
sue.
The people have spoken, right? Because the journey of this show, and Will, you've been with it almost since the beginning, correct?
Yeah, sort of
Is-
on and off for the last couple of years.
Right, right. Well, definitely in New Jersey, because I was really proud that you guys started the show in Red Bank, New Jersey, and then brought it to Broadway. But a lot of this has been, you know, a social media, like, come on, we want to see the show again. Did it in New Jersey, took off, and you had a fan following. So it's
Yeah.
really like by popular demand that you're here.
I mean, the incredible thing about it is that, you know, this is sort of an unprecedented trajectory for a show. You know, you guys did the production in New Jersey, which unfortunately I was not a part of. I was out of town with a different show that summer. And then what ended up happening was, you guys made the album, and these people, mostly young people, went totally nuts for it. You know, and it had, you know, 100 million streams before we announced the off-Broadway run last year. And it's just been kind of incredible every night to have such ardent fans coming to the theater. And you know, you were talking about this earlier today, like there's so many people who we meet who are like, this is my first Broadway show. And the other like brilliant thing of it is that we have so many instances where you have a parent and a child, and normally at the theater it's like, hi, I'm dad and I dragged my daughter to this show tonight. But in this instance, the kids are dragging their parents to this show, and the parents are like, I had no idea, blah, blah, blah. It's been this absolutely incredible thing to have these like young people be the driving force behind this show, rather than like, you know, the adaptation of some corporate property or, you know, some really clever marketing scheme. It's like this has really been driven by
An original musical.
an original musical.
Yeah.
So since we're not like the Tonys and we don't assume that our listeners know absolutely everything, Joe, tell us, just give us a sense of what the show's about and what was the inspiration for you?
Yeah, so Be More Chill is a musical that is about this kid, Jeremy. And Jeremy is like your average, nothing special teenager. There's simply nothing remarkable about him. And he finds out that there is this thing called a squip. And what a squip is this it's this tiny supercomputer that's inside of a pill. And so a high school kid would take a squip, the computer would implant in their brain, and then a voice would tell them how to behave. And so Jeremy finds out that all the popular kids in school, they've all taken squips. So there's like literally a voice that's telling them how to move about their day. Jeremy decides, you know what, I want to try this. I want to try to see if I can improve my life in some way. And so the show is kind of his journey with his squip. And it's a show that it talks about very heavy issues like anxiety and depression and all this stuff that plague young people today, and
us.
adults, and yes, and pretty much everyone. But the whole idea is to talk about this heavy stuff in kind of a celebratory manner. At its heart, the show is a very classic, traditional musical comedy, and I wanted to make something that felt like, it feels like a sort of fun, old-fashioned musical comedy where if you sort of
with a message.
With a message, or if you put a magnifying glass to the material, you see, it's actually about something deeper. And that's the most gratifying thing, is that the young people immediately latched onto that. The young people immediately were like, this is about anxiety and ADD and depression, and all these things that are such a part of my life. And then the kind of sci-fi fun and the tunes and all that was the sort of like second part of it for them. But what got them initially was a show that they felt like was speaking really honestly and authentically to their experience.
Did you write it with the idea of going to Broadway?
No, I mean, listen, I've written many musicals, and my dream is always that the thing will go to Broadway. But any show I've ever written, I'm no fool, so I know unless I'm writing, the musical version of X movie, or unless, I've got, Kevin McCullum, at my side the whole way, or unless I've got Hugh Jackman in the show, I know that, a certain number of things need to happen for the type of musicals that I write in order to get them to Broadway. And so I always felt like Be More Chill was a show that, should it be lucky enough to get in front of a large number of people, would do okay. I always felt like, people would be into this, but I felt like, so many things have to happen in order for it to get there. So I hoped, but it was never like, this one is going to be, this is the commercial one.
Well,
I just try to write, truthfully. And
well, Will, Hugh Jackman is replacing you.
I've heard.
This is how we're telling
He
you.
starts next weekend. You heard it here first.
That's right, exactly.
Just when you take a vacation, don't turn around.
Yes.
He
Don't
can't
come
be
back.
trusted.
He was tainted the room.
He tried to replace Bette Midler in Hello, Dolly. That guy will just take anybody's role. You got to watch out.
Yes, I just read that Pretty Woman is adding the song Pretty Woman into Pretty Woman the musical.
Oh, really?
And
Is that true?
Yeah, I just read it outside.
Desperation.
So we were either going to do that or replace you with Hugh Jackman. So they beat us to
They
adding,
stole our ideas.
Yes,
so
the Roy
Hugh's
Orbison
coming in.
song.
That's a winner.
Will, tell us what you love about Jeremy. And I know you've said, like, you don't want to just say he's an awkward teen. He's all of us, right?
Yeah, I think that Jeremy's biggest hang up is he's like hugely self-censoring and hugely self-limiting, and I think I meet a lot of these kids at the stage door. It's like these young people who are like sort of bristling with like energy and weirdness and delight, and they've yet to sort of figure out like how to shake hands with that and be okay with that part of themselves. And so Jeremy's big thing is, as soon as, like, truly the moment that he takes this pill and he has this voice just validating his impulses, he's instantly like able to talk to these people that he couldn't talk to before. His biggest fear is that he's going to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing, which we watch him do a bunch in the beginning of the play. And then as time goes on, the more that the script sort of instructs him what to do, the more he becomes someone who he is not. And then, because it's this, I always talk about it in terms of fascism. I'm always like, the squip is fascism. The squip is this notion that there is a right way to do things and there is a prescribed way to behave. And if you follow those strictures and those rules, you will be okay. But I think by the end of the play, Jeremy lands in a much more sort of nuanced way of loving himself and like presenting himself to the world. He's wearing these like Hello Kitty sneakers that he like probably would have liked at the beginning of the play, but would have been very afraid to purchase, lest like it say something about him that someone assumes that like maybe he's gay or something, which like to him is like horrible, which is also like, I love the way that we have the sort of the benign teen homophobia in our play, but by the end we're very much embracing people of all stripes.
I like that, benign teen homophobia.
Yeah.
It's interesting where this musical, though, fits in kind of the history of musical theater, Joe, because you do have a lot of shows now that are for young people, but they're the Disney brand names, these kind of things. There are very few shows that are about young people. I mean, I think your show fits in with Rent and Dear Evan Hansen. These kind of shows that are addressing pressing concerns of young people today without just providing them, this is an entertaining cartoon movie because we know you all went to see the movie when you were kids.
Sure.
So, were you influenced by Rent? Were you influenced by Dear Evan Hansen? Maybe not, because that you were working on this while that was coming along.
Yeah. I mean, Be More Chill, the show that Will was doing, the summer that we were doing Be More Chill in Jersey was Dear Evan Hansen.
Yes.
So we definitely were sort of, at the same time. But of course, I was so influenced by Rent. I was a kid who was obsessed with musical theater. Like I was a show geek. In every way. I only listened to original cast albums for the first 18 years of my life, and so Rent was this show that all of a sudden it felt cool and it felt dangerous to like musical theater, And
it was about people your age.
Yes, about people my age, and and also like the people in Rent and the sort of way they behaved and the things that they did were like very, very far removed from my experience as like a very shy, quiet kid in suburban Long Island. But that was so it felt like, oh yeah, there's something that's like that is young and hip, and the fact that you could have a musical like Rent where I could appreciate the great musical theater songwriting, and I can appreciate the character work, and I can appreciate the innovations of storytelling in that show, but also you could feel cool for liking it, right?
Yeah.
And it was this thing that became part of the larger cultural conversation. That was definitely the first time anything like that had happened in my lifetime, loving
Willie,
musicals.
You did come to us, I say us, Broadway. We discovered you through Dear Evan Hansen. Yes, you're now ours. You belong to the Broadway community.
I'll take it.
Did you grow up loving musical theater as well? And because I had the same experience, I did, and I felt like an outcast. I was the different one in school. Was it that way for you too, or is that changing now?
No, big time. No, I was like a huge. I was hugely into theater. For me, it started out. I started doing theater in 6th grade, and for me, it was like a thing I discovered by accident. But it was very much a place where I felt sort of like appreciated, and I found a community. And then as time went on, the more time that I spent around those people in middle school and high school, the more I was like, oh, like this is a thing that I would like to do in the long term, and like. In high school, like the person I wanted to be Brian Stokes Mitchell, like so bad. I just like the way that he sounded and the things that he sang about.
Interesting choice.
I later came to realize like, oh, I can be Brian Stokes Mitchell in some ways, but not always.
Will Roland starring in Ragtime.
God, he wished. That's all that teenage Will Roland wanted.
Oh, did you do karaoke with him in your bedroom?
I would sing it in my voice lessons, and my voice teacher would be like, you can't sing this, right? And I'd be like, I can sing it here. Right? It was truly like that. And what's funny is that like you hear me speak like that now, but I was like, that's who I wanted to be. That's who I wanted to sound like. I was like, I'm going to push my larynx down with my tongue and have a deep
wheels
voice.
of a dream.
Truly, that's who I.
Well, we'll call you Roll, like they call him Stokes. We'll call you Roll.
I like that.
But that's interesting. So it was really Brian Stokes Mitchell who was the big idol.
That was the voice that like got me into. I was like, this is what I want to do. This is like who I want to be.
Well, it speaks so loudly about being who you are and embracing who you are and being comfortable with that, which it's part of the theme of the show.
Yeah,
it's okay to be you. No one else is going to be you.
And part of what was so exciting was when I went to college, one of the first people that I met in college was Joe Iconis. And so outside of
you guys were all at NYU, is that where you all met?
Well, you just graduated.
Yeah. We missed each other there, but I was still hanging around.
Met a couple weeks into my freshman year, and this was the first sort of new musical theater that I knew was the stuff that Joe was writing. And it just totally shifted my idea of like what exciting musical theater is and like how you can tell dramatic stories with music. And I was sort of in for these like big ragtime style plots and lyrics, and then I realized how excited I am by the way in which Joe writes, which is much more about like microcosm and much more about Michael in the bathroom is the way of writing about panic and anxiety and all the big issues rather than these huge sweeping sort of notions. It's like boiling it down to these hugely human, hugely intimate ideas.
All right. Before we let you guys go, we like to get from our guests their couple, 2 or 3 songs from the musical theater that are meaningful to you in your life. So, Joe, we'll start with you.
Yeah.
And you can't pick your own song.
Okay. Damn it. You knew.
I saw you sing along with your song when we started this segment.
Yeah. So a few that are meaningful to me. Let's say Who's That Woman from Follies.
Oh, I love that song.
I love that song.
The Mirror
too.
Song.
The Mirror Song, yeah.
Why do you like that one?
I love that song because I love that it functions on so many levels. I love that you can listen to that song and take it so at face value as being the sort of, throwback, old-timey, Follies musical theater number, whatever, and it completely succeeds at that. But then it's, what that song is actually about is something that's so much deeper and is so tricky to write about. Someone actually facing themselves and thinking about what they've become in relation to what they used to be. And the fact that it's specifically a performer going through that, and the level of like, it's the performer who's performing this song, that person can't help but think about themselves as human
when
beings. When they were young, yeah, which is just such a it feels so heavy and so weighty, all wrapped up in this
very
song
light, fun. Yeah.
It feels frivolous and fun, and so I really love that tune. That's always been one that's kind of blown my mind since the time I first heard it. So I love that, and what else? I love, for similar reasons, I guess I love I Believe in You by Frank Lesser.
Oh, that's a great song.
How to Succeed. And it's another one where it sounds like a classic love song. It sounds, like sort of very traditional, professing your love to the one who you've been paired with. But it's, a song that this guy is singing to himself
in a mirror,
in the
bathroom.
You
like songs that take place in the bathroom.
Exactly. I just do. Yeah. I'm just drawn to the musical theater canon that is played out in the bathrooms. But yeah, it's that idea of songs that sort of work on multiple levels and songs that are so easily digestible. I love people sort of consuming musical theater and then having to think about it later, or I love songs that don't immediately present what they're about, where it's, when you're thinking about it like at home at night or at the bar after, like, oh, wait a minute, that's what they were doing there.
And
that's my favorite stuff.
A couple from you, Will, that have meaning in your life?
My like all-time, it might be my all-time favorite musical theater song is Somewhere That's Green. I love
Little Shop of Horrors.
Yeah, Little Shop of Horrors, and the way that, similar to like Michael in the Bathroom, it's about like a really small thing. She speaks in these really specific, kind of comical dreams, but they're these enormous ideas of like what she wants for her life and how she envisions love. I love any song that like is a love song that boils it down to a really specific metaphor, a really specific image. I just think the smaller the image, the better. So I love, A Matchbox of Our Own is like the ideal love song for me, and the ideal sort of I want song. Yeah, I think that song's great. Another one, I think, oh wait, I just had it and I forgot it. The other one I love is Good Thing Going.
Oh yeah.
I think Good Thing Going from Merrily is just another sort of, a sort of sad reflection on like what can happen to a friendship, and then when you put it in like with the whole with the context of the show and the order in which it happens, it just all it operates on so many levels, and every time that I listen to it, I find more stuff in it than the last time that I listened to it.
You'd be good casting for Merrily We Roll Along.
Well, thanks. I'd love to do that.
You'd be so good.
Yeah, I'd love to do that show.
Yeah. All right.
Blast.
Be More Chill is at the Lyceum Theater by Joe Iconis, starring Will Roland. Thanks, guys, for being our guest.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.